Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines, coming to you from the West Coast. Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. We got a pretty nice 8-game slate here on a Thursday night in the NBA. And this one, taking a look at the Dallas Mavericks taking on the Warriors again for the second time in about a week or so. We'll take a look at some of the best bets available in this one. Nate does have his great article up on playpicks.com as well with some best bets and player props in there for you. And make sure to like and subscribe to that page and check out those other couple videos we have up for you today, including that player props video that we are still hovering right around 500 on the week, but we'll look to pull ahead here tonight. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com and find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for tonight. Nate, let's get into it.
Yeah, somebody was drunk last night and put up Mavs +4 at home against this Warriors team. It has since been hammered. Now 6-point swing, and it'll probably continue to swing completely in the other direction, probably to Dallas -4. The Warriors have been awful over a 7-game span here. So I'm not really sure why they would be favored on the road against a team that's had their number. The total is also rising, and that's not necessarily a mistake by odds makers. It's more of a invective of the Warriors defense without Draymond Green. But there are 6 other games on the slate tonight, Josh. 7 total.
7, excuse me.
No worries. We got Bulls +1 at the Hawks. Trae Young is questionable there, so no props up yet. Miami is -2.5 at Brooklyn, and Kevin Durant is expected to return. So we're eagerly waiting to see what those props might be. Pistons are +8 at Toronto. The Grizzlies are now +1 at Boston. That line has also swung a lot since it's open, and we will break that game down in a separate video. Kings are +6.5 at the Spurs with a 241 total there. Again, looking for some props. And the Lakers are +2.5 at the Clippers, and the Lakers are dead to us, so we won't even address that game. The Warriors right now, I mean, Draymond's back at practice, right? So help is on the way, but they are looking more and more like the Warriors of 2019-20 that couldn't stop a nosebleed. Mea culpa for taking them to win in Minnesota with the Wolves on a back-to-back. Wolves had absolutely no problem scoring any way they wanted against this team. And the Warriors offense once again fell apart in the second half as they tried to keep pace. They now, in their last 7, they've lost 5 games, failed to cover in 6 of those games. They're 29th in three-point shooting, 32%. Their offensive rating is pretty good in the first half. I mean, great actually at 120. But in the second half, it plummets to 106.8. And Dallas is a team that is among the best defensive team in the second half in the league. In fact, they give up the 3rd fewest points per game. Warriors give up actually the fewest points per game in the second half. So might be some spicy live betting angles to get the under here. Because even if you give up points at a high rate, as the Warriors are doing, the Mavs play at such a slow pace that it's still hard for them to go over in any way. These teams, they would have gone over in 3 straight if not for a complete eruption from the Warriors, as we've seen occasionally from them, to score 138 at home, though, against Dallas.
Right.
The last 2 meetings in Dallas have gone under. Dallas won in Golden State on Sunday, 107-101. And Steph Curry now in these 3 games against Dallas, not putting up elite numbers by any means at 19 points per game, shooting 34% of the floor and 20% from deep. Whereas Luka, continues to crush anyone from the Western Conference. And is somebody we hitched our wagon to when they played the no-account Lakers and came through again. I mean, Dallas really at both ends of the floor, super efficient since the calendar turned to January. We know what they do at home, force games under, play at an even slower pace. Number 1 in 3-point defense since January 3rd. 12 of 15 games have gone under. So just like that Lakers game, I think we're backing Dallas to win, to go under. And even if that spreads at -2, you can still parlay that without much fear to go under 220 and for Dallas to cover.
Yeah, I mean, we're recording this the morning of, obviously on Thursday, Wednesday night, as we had brief discussions about this, and we saw -4. What if it was just somebody putting in the wrong digit or the wrong figure or the wrong, symbol, like, because it made no sense. I mean, at -4 for the Dubs, all we can talk about over the past, I feel like, week or so is, hey, everyone, Dallas is like one of the best teams in the league. Hey, everyone, Golden State really needs Draymond Green to be good. We all realize that now. I think we've solidified, despite that fact that, Draymond went out, Golden State did pretty well for the next like 10 or 11 games, right? I believe they went like 9-2. They had a really nice stretch after Draymond left, and then it all fell to shit. And you want to know why? I'll go ahead and start with Andrew Wiggins. As long as we're throwing out apologies, I'll go ahead and say my bad on picking Andrew Wiggins. For the record, our guy, he needed 21.5 points and rebounds combined the other night. He had 8 points and 5 rebounds in the first quarter. And he ended with 12 points and 7 rebounds because he just disappeared. And that's what led me to really look for that stat about the offense and defense, or the difference in offense for the Dubs in their last 7 between the first half and the second half. Is I'll start watching this Dubs game in the first half, and I'm like, wow, okay, 33-30 in the first quarter. Dubs are up. Steph is rolling. The role players are rolling. I'll turn on the game, the stats the next morning if I fall asleep before the game ends, and it's like they ended the game scoring 45 points through the last 2 quarters or what have you, and it's just obvious what they've been doing. They've just been falling apart, and specifically guys not named Steph Curry have been falling apart as he's picked it up. Maybe not still Steph numbers that we're used to, but I mean, shooting 38% from 3 is fantastic, and literally anybody in the NBA not named Steph Curry would probably love to shoot that. So, I think it's all about what they're not doing, and then you look at Dallas at the same time, like we said. How are they underdogs in a time where they've just been beating up on other teams that are also good? I mean, you mentioned since January 3rd at home, 12-3 straight up in their last 15 home games, covering 10 of those 15. The under hits 12 of those 15 games as well. We mentioned how slow they play. We mentioned they're limiting the teams to the 3-point percentage of 27.8% at home in their last 15 since Jan 3rd. So I mean that's definitely number 1 in the league. When you're holding teams to less than 28% from 3, when they're home dogs as well, 5-4 against the spread, they actually covered that spread by about 4 points. I know they're not home dogs anymore, but as basically a pick 'em, still at about 1.5, depending where you're finding it in favor of Dallas. There, I still feel great about that. I don't know what would lead you to think that the Dubs are going to be able to turn this around. We mentioned what their struggles are specifically, especially in their last 7. I mean, it's all about not having Draymond. I mean, it sort of worked itself out to where they had a decent defensive rating without Draymond for a bit, as I mentioned, going on a decent streak right when he went out. And in fact, right after they played Dallas, this was the last game that he really fully participated in. And since then, they're 15-13 without him. Their defensive rating jumps 9 points at this point. And they give up way more points in the paint. They give up way more rebounds. And they're basically a middle of the pack team / bottom of the 3rd team in the league without Draymond, especially on defense where they're bottom 10 easy. And so I understand the switching to the total for a minute. I understand the total. It seems like there's opportunity to hit an over with Dallas playing a lot better on offense, especially since that trade, up to about 6th in offensive rating since in their last 7. And we see Golden State just dropping, giving up points. But at the same time, like you said, Golden State not giving up many points in the second half because everything just slows down for them. They just become awful and slow on offense as well, which helps them on defense. But it's not like it's an efficient, good defense. 6-11 to the over. So basically, 6 of 11 games going, 6 of 17 games going over when the Dubs are the away favorite, right? And they only cover 2 in their last 8 games as the away favorite. They've only covered twice, including that 99-82 loss to Dallas on January 5th, where they were the favorite. They did have Draymond. I have no, there's nothing for the Dubs right now that gives me confidence. We'll see if Clay can come back and sort of be that reserve that comes out of nowhere that, it plays well above his pay grade, but he's going to need at least the rest of the season, I think, to get back. There's no reason to feel good about the Dubs taking this one. So I'll just smack Dallas again after I did last night at +4. I'll go ahead and hit it again at -1.5 this morning with all those who want to take it, and then maybe figure out a total play there. But more importantly, just hit the Mavs.
Yeah, because you are getting more value on the under as it continues to rise here with Dallas doing what they do. I mean, we haven't talked about their exact numbers against Golden State. They've won 8 of 10 and covered in 10 of their last 13. against this team. You mentioned they beat Golden State with Draymond when they were basically the hottest team in the league on January 5th and held Steph to 5 for 24 field goal shooting. In this most recent meeting, they gave up 11 to 25 for 25 from Steph, but nobody else could get going. Yeah. And Luka committed 9 turnovers and was a -9 in that game, and they still won. And this is a guy who's averaging 40 against the Western Conference in his last 6-7 conference games. So I don't think we're going to expect another bad game from him. I think the Warriors don't have a good defensive matchup for him at all. And we saw, with Luka struggling, Spencer Dinwiddie coming off the bench, going 10 for 14, torching whatever guards they throw out there because Steve Kerr is kind of hamstrung right now based on the roster. He has to play Jordan Poole alongside Steph. He has to play, Gary Payton in 3-guard lineups, and Poole wound up in foul trouble in their last game. They just can't. They can't play small ball the way they'd like to. And when they do go small with Juan Toscano Anderson and guys at the 5, their offense just falls off a cliff, and that's what we saw in the second half most recently. So, a lot to like about Dallas, but a lot to be concerned about if you're betting on the Warriors.
Exactly. Yeah. And one guy that we need to just call out here again, I know I brought up at the beginning of the video, Andrew Wiggins, venting some frustration about not hitting his props recently. He's the reason to me that they are, obviously Draymond being out, Iggy not being available. He hasn't really been available all season. I mean, if he was, then that would be a huge stopgap for what Draymond brings in terms of Iggy being able to provide some of that. Wiggins was supposed to provide some of that. He has not at all. And I'm looking it up in those first 10 games since Draymond went down. Wiggs had an individual defensive rating of 105. Very, very good, right? He was actually averaging 2 blocks and a steal and a half a game in those first 10 since Draymond dipped and left for injury. Since that time, we're talking an 115 individual defensive rating. Our guy's putting up in his last 7, 13 points, 4 boards, 2 assists, 41% from the field. They're a -3 when in his minutes when he's on the floor. So they're just losing by 3 points a game essentially every time he's on the floor. And that's a huge reason. I mean, they needed him. He obviously was a phony all-star, but they really needed him to step up on that defensive side and be that sort of get the defensive rebound and lead the fast break type player. And he's not. He's just taking a back seat, and that's gonna really handcuff them for the rest of the season until they get Draymond back, if they do, and we'll see what he's like. So that is all the time we have for you in this one. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page, and check out those other couple videos we have for you on this 7-game Thursday night slate. And until we see you next, happy betting.